So the two biggest trades we haven't covered yet on this channel are going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs acquisition of Mark Giordano and the Minnesota Wild's acquisition of Marc Andre Fleury. These were monster deals. Let's go ahead. Let's start with the Maple Leafs first. Wild on the back end of the video. Let's get after it. These videos are all sponsored by BetUS.com. Head over to BetUS.com to receive 125% first-time deposit bonus for new players in Canada and the United States. Make sure gambling is legal in your state or province and that you are over the age of majority. The Maple Leafs, we talked about it in a previous video, and I said they should be looking at Ben Chiarot because clearly Justin Hall and the hole they have on the defense is a big problem for them. Hey, they didn't get Chiarot. They got one better, and that is Mark Giordano. I think Giordano was the best defenseman available right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs to acquire. I'm actually very surprised they ended up acquiring someone. Kyle Dubas's quiet demeanor in this sense was really telling me I didn't think they were going to do anything. But after the arms race of the Brandon Hagel trade, of Florida going ahead and taking Claude Giroux, of everybody just massing up people, Hampus Lindholm to the Boston Bruins, Kyle Dubas had to do something. So he swings and he gets Mark Giordano. He also adds in Colin Blackwell for some depth, and he gives up 2 second-round picks and a third, so he gets to hang on to his first-round pick, and that's huge because first-round picks are gold. We talk about it. It's gold, gold, gold. You want first-round picks. You don't want to deal them away, so good for Dubas not dealing that away. It's a 2022-2023 second round. Hey, look, Leafs fans, you may think that hurts the future. Maybe you don't. But at the end of the day, it's only a 30 to 40% dart throw that they're even going to play in the NHL in the second round. So I wouldn't sweat it. Giordano comes in. He may be on his last year, but maybe he wants to stay in Toronto. Regardless, as a rental player, you're getting 2 key attributes. You're filling a massive hole on defense with grit and toughness. This is a very tough player. You need to have this guy in the back end. Toronto media has been saying it. Fans have been saying it's because it's correct. They are not tough enough on the back end. Giordano immediately makes this team tough on the back end. And I love the idea that you got Morgan Riley and Mark Giordano. That's an elite defenseman with a elite leader and tough guy in Giordano. This really does help shore up the Toronto Maple Leafs for their playoff push. Giordano also brings in much needed leadership skills. It's very well documented that he's a 2-time captain, both with Seattle and with Calgary. I understand that the leadership group in Toronto is there. I don't have as many concerns about it as Leafs Nation may have, especially with guys like John Tavares and that. But the concerns about captaincy always rises when people aren't winning games. And Mark Giordano comes in and he will be a calming force in the dressing room, that's for sure. So hopefully he can help clear out the front of the net and give these goalies some help because we know Campbell has just been struggling. There's a lot going on in the net right now for Toronto. I mean, the Leafs ended up picking up Harry Satiri. He was on the Finnish gold medal team in Beijing after his KHL club. Mrazek was then put up on waivers, but then they lose Satiri on waivers to the Coyotes. Fucking Coyotes. And Mrazek ends up clearing waivers. And Eric Kallgren ends up stepping in, and he's been all right for Toronto. But I mean, at the end of the day, the point of this isn't to talk about the goaltending carousel that's going on in Toronto right now. Jack Campbell's going to need to play like Jack Campbell needs to play in the playoffs. Mark Giordano is going to help that, hopefully give him some confidence in front of the net. So this is a huge move by Toronto. Oh, and I guess before we wrap it up, we can't forget about Carter Hutton. I don't know what to say, Leafs fans. I don't know what to say. I said at the beginning of the year that I was not confident in Jack Campbell. I've never been confident in Jack Campbell. He's a high-end backup. I was really hoping at the beginning of the year when Mrazek signed that having a calming force like Mrazek to take away 20 or 30 games from Campbell, when Campbell ends up getting a little bit shaky, would work out, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out. The goaltending was a problem. The cap situation in Toronto was well documented. Not being able to keep Freddie Anderson was clearly a problem, as Anderson's one of the best goalies in the NHL this year. It's going to be a tough playoff run, but the hope is that Mark Giordano can help you turn this around, and I think that's the best move Dubas could have made at the deadline, and he protected it first. So Leafs fans, let me know what you think down below. You never hold back. You always let me know what you think. And it's always the most well-educated, thought-out comments that anybody could ever hear on a hockey channel, right? Okay, Minnesota Wild, Delorier, Jost, Jacob Middleton end up going over to Minnesota, so a lot of pieces going that way. Kaapo Kähkönen ends up, he's out. Look, I thought he was going to be the future of the Minnesota Wild. He's not anymore. That's because Minnesota thinks their time is now, and why not? The West is so weak, so incredibly weak. They end up bringing in Marc Andre Fleury from the Chicago Blackhawks. It only cost Minnesota a second round conditional pick, and that's just because of the salary cap situation. But Fleury is an elite goalie still. There's no question about this. I don't understand what's happening at the tail end of his career. Pittsburgh ditches him for Matt Murray. I guess they won 2 cups that way, but I still would have kept Fleury. I think they would have won those 2 cups with Fleury regardless. He moves over to Vegas. He takes Vegas to the finals. He makes Vegas a contender. He leaves Vegas. Vegas immediately tanks after that. He was the Vegas Golden Knights, just like Carey Price was the Montreal Canadiens. So, hey, easy come, easy go, Vegas. That's the way they go in your casinos. Then Marc Andre Fleury goes over to Chicago. There was a little bit of hope after the Seth Jones and the Marc Andre Fleury signing that maybe Taves and King could have got it done with that veteran core. Doesn't happen. Chicago tanks, but he ends up going over to Minnesota. Look, Minnesota's scoring is interesting. They're scoring at a clip, or at least were scoring at a clip that was totally unsustainable. They weren't generating enough shots to score the amount of goals they were scoring. They were running over the league. I told you the well would eventually run dry because things returned to the middle. I think they've returned to the middle. Minnesota isn't looking like the playoff force that they were a month or 2 ago in the NHL season, but I also said that Minnesota's got a hole in goaltending, and a couple of the Wild fans on this channel went, no, I believe in Talbot, I believe in this team. Hey, I'm glad you believe in your team. That's your team. That's your baby. That's fine. I didn't, and I didn't believe in Cam Talbot. I didn't believe in the scoring holding up, and I didn't believe in the goaltending holding up, but I do believe now that Marc Andre Fleury is there. A pedigree of a goalie like this can take you to a Stanley Cup. You just got to get hot. You got to score at the right time. We know Minnesota's got one of the heaviest teams. We know penalties aren't called in the playoffs. We know they're going to be rocking some bod in the playoffs, and we know Marc Andre Fleury plays his best when it comes to the playoffs, and he can take teams to the dance. Marc Andre Fleury moving over to Minnesota is a massive move for the Wild. I think this immediately puts them back up to the top in the West right now. I've got Colorado, I've got Minnesota, I've got Calgary, and I've got LA. LA is my biggest dark horse of this. Their shooting percentage, they do not score as much as they shoot. They have the reverse problem of Minnesota. Minnesota scored a lot, even though they didn't shoot a lot. That had to fall off the rails. It did. LA shoots all the time, doesn't score nearly enough. That's got to turn around for sure. If LA gets hot and starts scoring, it's going to be trouble. So I love LA in the West. Colorado seems to be the class of the NHL. I'm not buying it. They can absolutely make it to the Stanley Cup Finals because it's weak. It's a weak conference. But at the end of the day, I think Colorado's got a lot more holes than the teams over there on the East. And I think Minnesota could absolutely take down Colorado with a hot goalie in Marc Andre Fleury. And I think the Calgary Flames are as good as people think the Calgary Flames are. But again, it's going to be hard to see because it's a weak division. So outside of those 4 teams, I don't see anybody special in the West. I really do see it as Calgary, as Colorado, and now I see 2 really nice entrants, dark horses in LA and in Minnesota. Other than that, it's going to be a pretty straightforward division in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below about these trades.